More than 280,000 crimes went unrecorded last year, with the logging of antisocial behaviour particularly unacceptably low. Who's saying this? Well, the Police Inspectorate, a report by His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services, found that only 51.9%, so 52% of crimes classed as antisocial behaviour targeting a specific individual or group were actually recorded between 2021 and 2025, and many other crimes are not recorded as well. Well, let's talk about this with Roy Ramm. He's a former commander of Specialist Operations at New Scotland Yard. Morning to you, Roy.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Now, I'm probably being incredibly naive here. I would have thought if I report a crime, whether it's, a murder or antisocial behaviour or shoplifting or whatever, that the police have to record that crime. Now, we know they often don't do anything about it. They don't bother investigating it. But don't they have to record it at least?
Yeah, they do. I think, to be fair to the cops here, they've got better. The actual recording mechanism is by no means straightforward, and they're up from they're now recording nearly 95% of all crime, and that's up from 80% just a year ago. So they're moving in the right direction.
Well, hold on a minute. 95% of reported crime. How does someone getting in touch with the police? I mean, often you have to do it. You can't go to a local police station. Now you have to do it online. And you say, I'm reporting this. I say I had my bag stolen June last year. But my bag stolen. How could they not record that?
I think they are recording, but they're not getting it into the data system properly, and that's the worry, Julia, because chief officers and us, we all need to know exactly what the crime numbers are so that we can put resources in the right places. And this is really, really very significant, because, we're talking about vast numbers here. The number you quoted, 280,000 crimes.
I think it's way more than that.
Well, it probably is, but don't forget, we've already got 9.5 million reported crimes. So somewhere in a region of 10 million crimes a year. And that's very, very important, because we need to confront politicians with that when we're talking about the resources that are being
what our priorities are, and whether any particular crime is is on the up or on the. And that's the thing. We had Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, a couple of weeks ago, putting out some stats very carefully chosen. Crime is falling in these few specific areas, ignoring all the areas where crime was going up. 40% of all mobile phones stolen in Europe apparently stolen in London. Well done us. We're constantly told that crime surveys say that crime is on the downward slope, but it's certainly not what most people experience in their day-to-day lives. I don't think I know a single person who doesn't know someone who's had their phone, their bag stolen, attempted break-in, been assaulted, or anything like that. And yet we're told, no, we're less crime-ridden than we ever were.
Well, I think that's a convenience for politicians who are worried about the cost of it, because if we look at population increase over the last 10 years, we've got nearly 4 million recorded people in the UK, probably more than that. So population's increased by 4 million, but police are still at 2003 levels.
Yeah.
So and when we look at the complexity of crime, so for example, in the HMI's report, they cite the number of frauds, for example.
And online, it's very difficult to police that.
And it's very difficult to investigate. This is not, something that one constable can do in a few hours. These are very complicated issues. So the simple fact is there aren't enough resources being dedicated to crime investigation, particularly assaults against women and girls, and particularly against online fraud.
But again, things like shoplifting, stuff that would be easy to solve, because you're talking to my local high street shop owners, they will say, we know the identities of the people, we've got them red-handed, we've got them in CCTV. If the police turn up, they don't bother arresting them. Even if they do, they'll get a slap on the wrist, nothing happens. And then you get more and more and more crime and more issues. But actually, you could kind of resolve the issue very quickly by those people being, I don't know, mad idea, crazy idea, put in prison.
Well, I think the criminal justice system needs to evolve to have something like 24-hour courts in big cities like London, where somebody who's arrested faces justice the next morning and is dealt with quickly. What happens now is that someone's arrested, possibly, or cautioned in the street, but if they are arrested and taken to a police station, they're not likely to face a magistrate's court for months.
Yeah.
And and then over that time, some clever defence will be invented. Yeah. And we don't.
And everyone loses interest, and the witness statements are then out of date. Or in the case of the man who allegedly stole my bag, just simply not turn up to court.
For sure, but if you were there if you were held in custody, to appear the next morning, and also give police a chance to do some research into their background, it has to change, Julia.
Yeah, it really, really does. Roy Ramm, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Philip Ingram, I mean, when we talk about this, we're talking about the crimes that have been reported and unrecorded. There's actually a huge number of people who don't report crimes. Now, I've got contents insurance, but if you don't have insurance, not much point reporting a crime that you don't think is going to be investigated by the police, whether it's your phone, your bag, or whatever.
Yeah, and as Roy said, if the statistics aren't recorded properly, then the government can't allocate the right resources to the police so that they can increase. And the chief constables and chief officers don't understand where they need to put their priorities and everything else, so it all starts to fall apart. And one of the problems here is, HMICFRS, Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary Fire and Rescue Services, are very good at producing some very comprehensive reports, but they've got no authority and following them up. And
we had these police and crime commissioners who were supposed to be elected by the people who were supposed to sort of basically hold chief constables to account and make them follow follow priorities of the public. They never seem to actually do that. A few rare exceptions. The priorities that we've got, which are about, frankly, about what is going on our streets. It's absolutely a top priority. But these crimes aren't even being recorded, let alone even being investigated. What do you expect?